Hello YouTubers, and thank you for subscribing to 100% Bootleg. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this transformer color box. It's got a couple different things going on. The main part is a pair of Bayer dynamic transformers. I decided to house an additional Lightner transformer in the same enclosure because I had some extra space. After acquiring the actual transformers and doing some research on the data sheets, I got a parts list together and ordered some stuff from one of my go-to DIY parts supplier, Box Parts. Here's the enclosure I'll be using. It's a 1590BB. And here's the jacks I like for this kind of thing. 1/4-inch TRS so I can use them for balanced or unbalanced configurations. These mount really flush and they look nice. Here are the main transformers that wanted to use in this build. These are Bayer Dynamic TRB V351s. They are 1-to-1 ratio and are technically input transformers, but I'm going to use these all over the place in the signal chain, both tracking and mixing. So yeah, let's get to building. I used some console tape and a ruler to mark out where I thought the inputs and outputs should go. I wanted to make sure things were pretty even, cause the better it looks, the better it sounds, not me. Then I used a Sharpie and a USPS shipping label to mark out the top of the enclosure. This is where the transformers will sit. This is also the point where I decided to throw the Lightner in the mix since I knew I would have enough space to do so. Also marked out a couple more jacks on the other side of the box for the additional transformer. So I used a pretty small drill bit to pre-drill all the holes so that I could be as precise as possible. I got aluminum shavings all over the kitchen and had to go get the vacuum before my wife saw what was happening. After that, I took off the tape and got a small stepping bit ready to finish drilling. So here's the box all drilled out. I was going to paint it and clear coat it at this point, but I actually liked how raw and industrial it looked, and it kind of complemented the look and color of the transformers. So I said F it. Off camera I also drilled another hole for a 3-position switch that I'm going to use for the additional transformer. I started by mounting all of the 1/4-inch jacks. Yeah, the ones in the front look really good and the ones in the back are pretty standard. I like the plastic type jacks for metal enclosures most of the time so that I don't have to worry about grounding to the case or any weird shit that may happen when the aluminum case may act like an antenna. Next, lie there in the big boy because it would be difficult to tighten it down with too much stuff in the way. I used little lock washers under the nuts so it would stay put for many years. The big transformer is actually pretty heavy for its size. After that, I tightened down on the Bayers. These are really straightforward and were easy to clamp down on real nice. I made sure they were both facing as forward as possible so you can read them for the vibes. I also threw in that switch I was talking about. Everything looked pretty straight at this point and it was time to get the soldering iron plugged in. While it was getting hot, I spun the box around a few times for the vibes. At this point, I have the bulk of the inputs and outputs wired up. I did reference the pinouts for each of these transformers, but actually did some tests with alligator clips on my studio desk and wrote some notes about what else they were capable of if I used the center tap. The next pages of this notebook have a bunch of project and song names for the next low-tech Larry album I'm working on. It's going to be spooky vibes, super boom bap style off the MPC and Akai S700. But yeah, back to the color box. This looks cool so far. I'm getting kind of thirsty. Let me grab a sip of beer and move on. Here's a live shot of me rewiring the big transformer by utilizing the center tap and one additional wire that I think was a shielding wire. I figured out how to get a high shelf boost, a flat and natural setting, then a relaxed low pass out of the Lightner. I wired the jacks a little differently, then wired up the 3-way switch. Okay, everything's wired up. It looks and sounds awesome. I've been running stuff through it in between soldering just to make sure it rocks, and it does. The wiring could be zip tied and organized a bit, but this is just for my personal use and not for sale, so I'm okay with it as is. Last thing I'm gonna do is put this solid state badge from an old tape machine on here. It's from an old Sony reel-to-reel machine that I had a while ago, but I always like to badge stuff I make for the vibes. I'm gonna use some super glue around the posts in between the plastic and aluminum, then hot glue the inside for the vibes. Lastly, I'll screw the back plate on nice and tight. Then I'll put some little rubber feet on here so it won't slide around on my desk or console or wherever it finds a home. Anyway, here's the finished product. If you thought you were gonna get a sound clip, think again. Ain't nobody got time for that. I have other videos that go into detail about how stuff sounds. Be sure to subscribe for the vibes. Talk at you later, home dogs. Keep it 100.